Listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal will change everything you think you know about attraction. Most men spend their lives chasing women, bending over backward to earn affection, only to end up frustrated and ignored. But what if I told you there's a hidden code, a psychological blueprint that makes women instinctively drawn to certain men? Not because of looks, money, or cheesy pickup lines, but because of how those men make them feel deep in their biology. And here's the shocking truth. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding the raw, unspoken forces that drive female desire, forces most men will never recognize. Today I'm going to expose them all. But be warned, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Your relationships, your confidence, even the way women look at you. It all changes from this moment forward. So if you're ready to stop begging for attention and start commanding it, to stop being an option and become a priority, then don't you dare look away. Because in the next few minutes, I'm handing you the keys to a level of attraction most men will only ever fantasize about. This isn't just game. This is power. And it's yours for the taking, if you have the courage to listen until the end. Let's talk about safety, not just the kind where you stand between her and a physical threat, though that matters. No, real safety is far deeper. It's psychological. It's emotional. It's the unshakable certainty that when she unravels in front of you, when the weight of her world presses down and she shows you the parts of herself she's afraid to face, you won't flinch. You won't judge. You won't weaponize her vulnerability later. You'll hold space for it like a fireproof blanket smothering chaos without burning up yourself. That's the foundation. Without it, nothing else you build will last. Think about it. Why do so many relationships crumble under pressure? Because when storms hit, and they always do, most men haven't cultivated the emotional stability to be an anchor. They panic. They deflect. They make her turmoil about them. And suddenly, she's not just carrying her own pain, she's managing his reaction to it. That's the opposite of safety. That's emotional debt. And women have a sixth sense for it. They know when you're a harbor or just another shaky dock in a hurricane. But here's what most miss. Safety isn't passive. It's not just being nice or listening. It's presence. It's looking her in the eye when she's speaking and making her feel like, in that moment, nothing exists but her words. It's the way you steady your voice when she's spiraling, not with empty platitudes, but with the quiet confidence of someone who's unafraid of darkness. It's keeping your frame when she tests you, because she will test you to see if you're solid enough to trust. And this is where most men fail spectacularly. They confuse safety with comfort. They think being a good guy means never rocking the boat, never disagreeing, never holding her accountable. That's not safety. That's servitude. Real safety allows for conflict because she knows, even in the heat of an argument, you won't abandon her or turn cruel. It's the difference between a padded cell and a fortress. One stifles, the other protects. Now let's talk about biology, because it matters. Thousands of years of hardwiring tell women to seek partners who reduce their stress hormones, not amplify them. When you create genuine emotional safety, you're literally lowering her cortisol levels. You're signaling to her nervous system, with this man, I can rest. And that's catnip. Because a woman who feels safe in your presence will choose you, not just settle for you. She'll fight for you. She'll soften in ways she doesn't even understand. But, and this is critical, you can't fake this. You can't perform stability. If you're secretly insecure, if you're pandering for approval, if you're one argument away from crumbling, she'll smell it like blood in the water. That's why building real safety starts with you. Get your mind right. Get your purpose in order. Master your emotions so you can handle hers. Because the irony is this, the safer you feel within yourself, the more safety you can offer her. So ask yourself now, when she looks at you, does she see a man who expands her peace? or another source of chaos. Because here's the truth. Women don't fall in love with men who make them feel alone in their own emotions. They fall for the ones who make them feel seen, held, and unafraid, be that man. Then watch what happens. Desire. Now there's a word that's been cheapened, diluted, stripped of its power. Most men think they understand it flowers, compliments, physical attraction. But that's not desire. That's decoration. Real desire is something far deeper, far more dangerous. And if you can master it, she won't just want you, she'll crave you in a way that defies logic. Because true desire isn't just about the body, it's about the soul. And most men never learn the difference. Let's start with the brutal truth. Women are drowning in hollow validation. They're bombarded daily with empty praise, thirsty DMs, and men who confuse lust with devotion. So when you walk in with the same tired script, "You're beautiful, I can't stop thinking about you," you're not standing out. You're blending into the noise. What does stand out? A man who desires her mind before her body. A man who listens to her opinions like they're secrets, who challenges her intellect like it's a worthy opponent, who sparks a fire in her thoughts that no cheap compliment could ever ignite. Here's the psychological truth. Desire thrives on tension, not saturation. Think about it. The reason hard to get works isn't just about playing games. It's about creating space for anticipation. When you're selective with your attention, when you admire her with restraint, rather than suffocate her with neediness, you're flipping a primal switch. You're signaling that your desire is a privilege, not a given. And nothing is more intoxicating than a privilege that must be earned. But let's go deeper. There's a reason the most magnetic men in history weren't always the handsomest or the richest. They were the ones who made women feel alive. Cleopatra didn't risk empires for Caesar and Antony because they flattered her. She did it because they matched her ferocity, her ambition, her hunger for life. That's the secret. Desire isn't just about how you look at her. It's about how you reflect her potential back to her. When you see the woman she could be, the wilder, wiser, unstoppable version of herself, and you call that woman forward, that's when desire becomes addiction. Now, here's where most men self-destruct. They think desire is something they take from a woman, rather than something they cultivate in her. They chase, they plead, they orbit her like a starving planet around a sun. And in doing so, they kill the very thing they want, because desire can't flourish under the weight of desperation. It thrives in the space between what she has and what she might lose. That's why the men who inspire the deepest longing are often the ones who seem capable of walking away. Not because they don't care, but because they refuse to be an option instead of a priority. And this is where biology comes roaring back. Women are hardwired to sense social proof. If you're the kind of man other people respect, if you're admired at work, if you're charismatic in a room, if you carry yourself like someone who could have options, her attraction isn't just about you. It's about the validation of being chosen by you. That's why the most powerful form of desire is demonstrated, not declared. Show her through your actions, your discipline, your purpose that you're a man of value. And suddenly, her desire isn't just for you. It's for the status of being yours. But, and this is critical, none of this works if it's a facade. You can't fake being high value. You can't pretend to have options. Women have a radar for authenticity. And if you're performing instead of being, she'll sniff it out like a bloodhound. That's why the foundation of desire isn't manipulation. It's self-mastery. Become a man who genuinely doesn't need her, but chooses her. That's the alchemy. That's the shift from begging to being irresistible. So ask yourself now, when she's with you, does she feel common or chosen? Does she feel like just another fan in your audience, or the only one who gets backstage? Because here's the truth. Women don't fall for men who simply want them. They fall for men who make them want themselves more in their presence. Be that man. Then watch what happens. Let's address the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. Women don't respect men who agree with everything they say. They might enjoy the temporary ego boost, but deep down, it breeds contempt. Because here's what you're not being told. A woman's attraction is inextricably linked to your ability to challenge her. Not antagonistically, not cruelly, but with the quiet confidence of a man who knows his own mind and isn't afraid to stand by it. That's where real connection begins, not in blind submission, but in worthy opposition. Think about the relationships that shaped history. Cleopatra and Caesar, Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, Simone de Beauvoir and Joan Paul Sartre. These weren't partnerships built on placation. They were forged in fire, through debate, through tension, through the mutual respect that can only exist when both people refuse to shrink themselves. That's the paradox most men miss. The more you stand your ground, the more she'll want to meet you there. Not because women like jerks, but because strength, real strength, is magnetic. And nothing demonstrates strength like the courage to disagree. But let's clarify. Challenging her doesn't mean picking fights over trivialities. It means refusing to let her get away with intellectual laziness. It means calling her out when she's operating beneath her potential. It means holding her to the same standard you hold yourself. Because here's what you need to understand: women test men. Not consciously, not maliciously, but instinctively. They push boundaries to see if you'll push back. And when you do, when you remain unshaken in your convictions without becoming defensive, you pass a test most men don't even realize they're taking. That's when respect transforms into something deeper. That's when she starts to trust your leadership. There's neuroscience at play here. When you engage a woman's mind, when you force her to defend her opinions, to articulate her thoughts, to rise to your level, you're triggering dopamine release. You're creating the same chemical cocktail that forms during intense intellectual or creative pursuit. This is why the most stimulating conversations feel like a dance. Sometimes harmonious, sometimes competitive, but always moving towards something greater than either person could achieve alone. That's the secret behind mental foreplay. It's not about proving you're smarter. It's about proving you're worth the mental effort. Now, here's where most men fail catastrophically. They mistake challenge for control. They think being dominant means making all the decisions, steamrolling her preferences, refusing to ever be wrong. That's not strength. That's insecurity in disguise. Real challenge leaves room for her to change your mind too. It's not about winning every argument. It's about ensuring the arguments are worth having. The moment it becomes about your ego, rather than mutual growth, you've lost the plot entirely. Consider this: the women who've shaped civilization. Marie Curie, Rosa Parks, Margaret Thatcher. They didn't fall for yes men. They were drawn to men who could match their intensity, who could engage them at the highest level of their intellect and ambition. That's the standard you're competing against, not the simp in her DMs, but the ghosts of every man who ever made her think harder, burn brighter, and question everything. That's the lineage you're joining when you dare to challenge her. But, and this is critical, none of this works if you haven't first mastered yourself. You can't challenge her from a place of instability. You can't push her to grow if you're stagnant. This is why the foundation is always personal development. Read voraciously. Cultivate real-world competence. Develop opinions worth defending. Because the man who can challenge her effectively isn't the one with the loudest voice. He's the one with the most substance behind his words. So here's your litmus test. When was the last time your disagreement made her better? When was the last time she walked away from a conversation with you feeling simultaneously unsettled and inspired? If you can't remember, you're not leading, you're following with extra steps. The goal isn't to be contrarian. The goal is to be the kind of man whose perspective matters enough to change hers. That's how you become indispensable. That's how you become unforgettable. Let's talk about inspiration, not the hollow motivational poster variety, but the kind that rewires her nervous system when you enter the room. Because here's what no one tells you. A woman doesn't just want to love you. She wants to be proud of you. Not for what you give her, but for who you are when you're at your most fully realized. This is the silent contract of lasting attraction. She will measure your worth, not by how you treat her, though that matters, but by how you conduct your war with the world. Consider this biological reality. Women are the selective sex. For thousands of generations, their survival depended on choosing men whose competence and ambition could sustain a family through winters, wars, and scarcity. That evolutionary imprint hasn't disappeared. It's simply transformed. Now, instead of judging your ability to hunt mammoths, she's assessing whether your vision for life could sustain her through modern complexities. When she watches you navigate challenges with grit and ingenuity, something primal awakens. Not because she needs saving, but because she's hardwired to recognize and respond to demonstrated excellence. But here's where most men misunderstand the assignment. They think inspiration is about grand gestures. The big promotion, the flashy car, the performative displays of success. Those are props, not proof. Real inspiration lives in the daily disciplines, how you handle adversity when no one's watching, the books on your nightstand, the way you speak about your rivals, the integrity you maintain when it costs you. These are the moments that reveal character, and character, not circumstance, is what makes a man truly admirable. There's a neurological phenomenon at play here, mirror neurons. When she observes you pushing limits, her brain literally rehearses those behaviors as if she were performing them herself. This is why ambitious women are drawn to ambitious men. Your growth becomes contagious. Your standards become hers. And suddenly, being with you isn't just a relationship, it's an upgrade to her entire operating system. That's the hidden power you wield. Not to complete her, but to compel her to outgrow her former self. Now let's expose the elephant in the room. Modern culture has pathologized male ambition. Men are told to be softer, quieter, less disruptive. But here's the truth women won't say out loud. They don't want tame. They want harnessed power. There's a reason the stories that endure across millennia feature heroes, not helpers. Beowulf didn't win loyalty by being agreeable. He earned it by facing dragons others fled from. Your modern dragons might be different. Building a business, mastering a craft, defending your values in a cowardly age. But the principle remains. The more formidable your daily battles, the more she'll respect the warrior who comes home to her. This brings us to the critical distinction between being impressive and being inspiring. An impressive man makes her nod. An inspiring man makes her lean forward. The difference: vulnerability in pursuit of purpose. Let her see the sweat on your brow after a grueling workout. Let her hear the frustration in your voice when a project fails, followed by the resolve to try again. Let her witness the full arc of your striving, not just the highlight reel. Because perfection doesn't inspire. Perseverance does. And when she sees you fall and rise enough times, she'll start believing she can conquer her own mountains too. But, and this is non-negotiable, none of this works if your ambition is a performance for her approval. That's the paradox. The moment you make her the why behind your drive, you undermine the very qualities that attracted her. True inspiration flows from intrinsic motivation. You don't build because you want a woman, you build because creation is your duty as a man. And when she recognizes that unshakable inner compass, that's when you become irreplaceable. Not as a provider, but as a force she can't imagine being absent from her life's equation. So here's your mirror test. When you look at yourself at 3 a.m., are you someone a brilliant woman would follow into uncertainty? Not because you promise comfort, but because your track record suggests the gamble might be worth it. If that question unsettles you, good, let it. Let it drive you to read that extra chapter, to take that calculated risk, to polish your craft until it reflects something worthy of her pride. Not for her, for you. Because the man who does that won't have to chase love. He'll attract it by default.